Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us again on Gotta Get Running. I'm Phil Hargis. Alongside me, as always, is Pacers Running Store's Chris Farley. Chris, good to see you.
What's up, Phil? How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Just crushing it, man. Having a good summer. Everything's going well. Getting into fall and running season. Everything's going good, man. How you doing?
I hear you're training.
I am, man.
We'll probably talk a little about that today.
I'm always training, man.
I know you're always training, but you got a race coming up, and we're really excited about.
It's kind of like 2 years in the making, man. I'm like kind of really super excited about the big race next month that's coming up. And I think we should just go and bring him in, man. Like, let's get the guy out here. And he's sitting over here really quiet. I know that's not easy for him to do. And I'd like to welcome JFK race director Mike Spindler to the show for the third year in a row. Mike, it's great to have you back on.
It's great to be back, Phil.
And also, I want to take a minute to say, wish you a happy birthday as well.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
How about that? I didn't even know it was his birthday.
Oh, man, I've had a lot of them. I've had a lot of them. We'll leave that number. I'm 55.
There you go. Well, you can look in the record books how old Mike is, because Mike is a two-time winner of the race that he directs, the JFK 50 mile. What years did you win the race?
A long time ago, 1982, 1983. As I tell my sons, I was something back in the days of disco.
Yeah, those are good days, and you've since become the race director. How long have you been the race director?
Well, it was a long process. After that 83 race, the race director sat down with me. I was a little depleted, a little low on sugar, and he said, boy, I'm trying to get a new race director for this race. And I said, hey, Buzz, when you have to give this race up someday, you give it to me.
Yeah.
And he said, you got it, young man. And 10 years later, at age 35, he handed it over to me. And
so that was 1993.
83, we talked about it for the first time. 1993, I took it over. I did 2 years as an intern under Buzz, 91 and 92. And then in 93, I became the official race director for the 31st annual JFK. So this is my 21st time directing the race.
So this race, Saturday, the particulars are Saturday, November 23rd.
Yes.
7 a.m. start, 5 a.m. start for others. We're going to figure out which start time Phil should get. We can figure that out along the course of this show. It's JFK50mile.org is the website, and it's sold out as always. Sells out real quick, right?
It does. We opened on April 1st, and about 2 weeks into it, we were sold out.
Wow.
Now, we do reserve 100 charity spots where you pay the standard entry fee, and then you do a $500 fundraising for one of the 30 or so JFK official race charities we have. And we still have 53 of those spots left. So if anybody wants to get in, and only requirement is, besides the fundraising, is to have finished a marathon in the last 24 months. No time. If they could finish it in 7 hours, 6 hours, whatever, and we still have 53 of those charity spots. So people can still get in.
Chris, you can still get in.
You know what? I ran it one time in 2009, and it is such an emotional experience for everybody out there, and you're going to experience it too. It's going to be amazing. So I would love to do it again. It is a great event. So I urge, if those 53 spots are open, I would urge people to take a look at it. And it's not too expensive. I mean, really, there's charity spots are a lot more expensive for
many races out there.
Yeah. So that's
I was telling Mike I had to raise $7,000 to run the Boston Marathon and to be able to run the JFK 50 mile, where you get double the distance for a fraction of the cost. And you get fed like a king out there, and like there's just the experience. I went out and watched my friend. I unfortunately got injured last year and couldn't compete in the event about a month out from the race time. An Achilles injury ironically on my very last 20-something mile training run. So. It happens, when you're building up that mileage, you're susceptible, and that happened to me. It can happen to anybody. You just got to try to manage it properly so it doesn't happen to you again this year, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. There's no way I'm missing it this year, man.
Well, it's a race rich in history. First race was 1963. How many finishers did you have?
11 starters, 4 finishers in 1963.
4 finishers, and give us a little history on the JFK 50.
Well, it's kind of a solemn anniversary because it was 50 years ago that we lost JFK. But actually, the first event was while he was still the sitting president. He was a very robust president. He was trying to revive what Teddy Roosevelt did from 50 years prior to him, having a very healthy, active, robust country. So he started the President's Council on Physical Fitness. He also reinstituted the 50-mile hikes that Teddy Roosevelt required of his military officers to maintain their commissions. So he brought that back after 50 years. And then the general public jumped on it too. They wanted to do these 50-mile hikes. So that's how it all started in the spring of 1963. And then you know, when next year, after the terrible tragedy in Dallas in '64, any of the events that survived were renamed from the JFK 50 Mile Challenge to the JFK 50 Mile Memorials. There was events like this, hundreds of them, all over the United States and on military bases around the world. The one in Washington County, Maryland is the only one to survive that half a century. All the rest of them disappeared. So that's the history of our event.
So you guys, talk to us a little about, you said Washington County, Maryland, that's where the race is.
Yep.
How's the course shake out for us?
It starts in the little town of Boonesboro.
Okay.
And it goes 2.5 miles, gains almost 1,000 feet in the first couple of miles, very difficult, up 40 alternate. Then it climbs onto the Appalachian Trail. It roughly goes 13 miles down the Appalachian Trail, where you gain access to the C&O Canal towpath. Then you run a full marathon, actually 26.3 miles up the C&O Canal towpath, and then the last 8.4 miles you come off on little country roads that lead you into the little town of Williamsport. And a little history on Williamsport, that's where George Washington wanted to have the nation's capital. That was his first choice, and he got overruled for that, and he put it a little farther down the road, 60 miles closer to the bay, but that's where it finishes, in Williamsport, Maryland.
That's good. That's a good history lesson. I'm not a good history guy.
And I'm curious, like, has the course changed much over the 50 years old?
It has not.
Roughly, it's the exact same route.
Well, I hate to say the exact same route. The first 46 miles are identical. In 1980, they changed the finish line slightly to accommodate the larger fields that were coming in. So we altered the last 4 miles of the race in 1980. So from 1980 until now, it has virtually unchanged.
It always started there in downtown Boonesboro.
Starts in Boonesboro, finishes in Williamsport.
So the first part of the race, from my recollection, a lot of switchbacks, a tough part of the course, but to me, the toughest thing was fueling along the way. Give us some advice on that.
Well, you know, there's one thing that's a general from the Max Kings to the people just trying to beat the 12-hour time.
Max King won the race last year.
Max King won last year. He's a world-class athlete. He was 6th in the Olympic trials in the steeplechase, a 2:14 marathon runner. Max ran a course record 5:34.59 last year. But from the Max Kings to the people trying to beat the 12-hour time cutoff, it's very similar. Trying to stay relaxed and trying to stay fueled. But in the early part of the race, because it goes across the Appalachian Trail, the aid stations are separated by a substantial distance. From the 9.3 mile aid station to the 15.5 mile aid station, you think, well, it's only 6.2 miles, but it's a very difficult 6.2 miles of Appalachian Trail, some elevation gain, some crazy switchbacks from the 14.5 mile to the 15.5 mile aid station. And we kind of encourage our people to have to stay fueled. And then they say, do I have to carry stuff along? Well, not the rest of the way, not from 15.5 miles to the finish line, because then the aid stations come on an average of every 5 kilometers. But that first part of the race, we kind of encourage people with the fueling belts that are available. I think Phil might be showing some of the products and that type of thing. That's helpful, because you don't want to get your tank low in the first third of the race when you want to stay fueled and hydrated.
Yeah, we got a couple things here. We always love visual aids here at Gotta Get Running, Phil may have the backpack on. I'm not sure which one you're going to use. Or maybe it's going to be the purple bottle for you, Phil.
The pink one, man. I think I'll have to carry the pink and purple bottle.
Maybe doubling up. But, having these at the beginning, I think, is not a bad idea. And then maybe handing them off to your support crew. Because the support crew is such a huge part of this race,
Oh,
too.
it really is. Now, you're going to have over 300 volunteers who are there to help every one of those 1,000 runners. But we also have people that come along with a family and a friend, or the wife will bring the husband, or vice versa, and maybe some family members or friends. And like the Reston Runners, they have this incredible support crew that follows their participants around. And it really does help quite a bit. We're talking double the marathon, and we get a lot of people that this is their first ultra. You can qualify with a marathon time. And so that outward support, not just your fluids and your nutrition, but that, hey, you're doing great, a familiar face. As you know from doing the event just 4 years ago, it's nice to have a familiar voice, an encouraging voice, at the spots that they meet you along the way.
Yeah, and there is. Let's go and talk about that. First of all, if I don't have a support crew, is the race make available to me bag drop services?
It does.
It does.
We try to make it for that person who flies in from California with no one with them. They're going to have the same experience as the person who drives up from the D.C. area. You'll be taken care of.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So if I wanted to bring an extra pair of shoes to change into, kind of leave that in one of those bags, and then
we can get the stuff to the finish line. Now, if you do want to get a shoe change around the course,
yes,
then you're going to need a personal handler.
Okay, so you do need a personal handler. So I just hire somebody at the fitness.
You can hire someone from Pacers. I'll be there.
All right, Chris will be out there to be my personal handler if my friends and family can't make it out. You do have a lot of aid stations, and you have I do have some of the locations where the spectators and the handlers can go to. The area that we're actually perched at right now, if we thought we'd come on site here, this is mile in the background here. This is where you come off the Appalachian Trail at Weaverton here, mile 16, and that's the first great spot where you can actually catch your catch your friends.
That's
and family
when the friends and family will cheer you like crazy when you come off the mountain. You have that behind you. The most difficult terrain part of the race is then behind you.
The switchbacks are right there, and that's
at 15.5 miles is when you'll see a big crowd there.
And do you remember what it was like coming off the mountain there?
It was exhilarating, man. I was sprinting down there, maybe a little too much too early there. You know,
it's just that you don't want to get caught up in that enthusiasm.
But there is a lot of people, and it is exciting.
We generally, and now the next spot after that, Phil and Chris, is Antietam Aqueduct, which is 27.1 miles, just past the marathon point. And that's a real pivotal spot too, because, and I said, many of these people doing their first 50 milers, psychologically, I've already gone a mile farther than a marathon, and I still got 23 miles to go. So it's nice to see familiar faces.
And you're also past the halfway point there too, so it's all kind of like downhill.
So, you know, are you one of the glass half full or glass half empty type people? If you're one of those optimists, hey man, I'm over halfway there. But if you're like, oh my goodness, I'm a mile past a marathon, and I still got 23 miles to go, which was my longest training run getting ready for my marathon. But you're going to get great support from those 300 plus volunteers. A lot of high school cross country kids who are all over the course having a blast, and they just get you pumped up. But like Chris mentioned, sometimes you got to hold back a little bit. You don't want to get too enthusiastic and react almost like the Boston Marathon when you go by the Wellesley girls. You don't want them too hard because you've still got half a race to go. The same way with JFK, I always tell people, get to the Shepherdstown Bridge. There's an aid station there at 30.5 miles. And generally when you get to that point, then you can start saying, you know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel that I'm starting to see. So I always tell people, my coach used to tell me, the race in the JFK really doesn't start until 30 miles. You know, and that sounds kind of crazy, but you got to kind of pace yourself a little bit.
Okay, well, and for me, that leads to me to a good question, because I've done a 50K, so I know what 31 miles feels like. But what's it going to feel like going from 30 to 50 miles?
Okay, most people getting ready for the JFK, and I'm talking from the Max Kings back to the people who are just hoping to beat that 12-hour time limit. And I say just, less than 1/10 of 1% of the U.S. population has ever finished a 50-mile foot race. So just by beating that time limit throws you into a pretty elite group. But all those people, the idea, the longest training run is normally about 30 miles. And many of the 11 and 12 and 10-hour people, it's more like 28 and 27 miles. The idea is, like you experienced last year, is get to the starting line fit and prepared to cover this distance, but not get hurt, okay? So I think you're gonna find when you get in there with those people around you, and with the aid stations and the mentality of just get from one aid station to the next, almost like an interval workout. When you're doing a hard interval workout, you don't focus on the entirety of it, you just focus on that one piece. Next aid station. I think you're gonna get to 30 miles and think to myself, wow, I didn't think I was gonna feel this good and still got some wheels, you know? That's our theory, that if you can cover 30 miles in training, and a lot of people will do that, they'll do a 50K somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks out from the JFK. A lot of people marathon and then they'll tack on a few miles afterwards. But we always like, when we've given training advice to the many people I coach, that if you can cover 50 kilometers, 30 miles, 31 miles in training, you'll be okay on JFK day.
So I think
you're going to be fine.
You will be fine. I think there probably are a lot of people like Phil who this is their first. You said it's a big time first time 50 mile. So they're coming off of just doing marathon training. Do you get a lot of marathoners who run a fall marathon and then run your race?
Now what we do with those people is then we tell them. Not tell them not to try to get their Boston qualifier or something like that, but you got to remember it's more of a training run in preparation. Whereas, and also Marine Corps usually is perfect, and it is this year. You know, it's 4 weeks out. That's what we tell people: 4, 5, 6 weeks out. You do your marathon, you do your 50K, and then by then the cake's basically cooked. You know, and then you just basically hold on. The taper for an ultra might be a little farther out. Now I know athletes vary. Okay, but also like the standard marathon, you do your longest run 3 weeks out, and then you taper down for 3 weeks. For an ultra, it might be a little farther out for some people. You know. Getting there healthy.
Yeah. So coming from a marathon background, I was surprised what I ate on course or what I was craving on course. What kind of stuff do you guys have out there this year?
It's a buffet line. We joke sometimes that we'll have people, that actually gain weight during the event. But it varies from the Power Bar is one of our major sponsors.
Yeah.
So we'll have the great, Power Bars, the Power Gels. They're nutritional products for people who like the standard stuff. But then we'll have people who it's almost like a pregnant woman, who's looking in the refrigerator for what looks good. And many times it's your body's telling you that, I want some potato chips.
Yeah.
Or you know what? I normally don't eat M&Ms, but I'm going to grab a handful of M&Ms because your body's screaming for sugar and caffeine at that point, and that's what it has in it. Yeah. So, but there'll be sandwiches, there'll be bananas, there'll be oranges. Some of the aid stations will have. There's a legendary aid station at 38 miles they call 38 Special, and they serve red velvet cake. So if that's your thing, if you're thinking 38 miles into it, God, a piece of cake would really taste good, and all of a sudden it's going to be like a mirage. There's cake, But it just depends. Some of the real serious, elite, world-class athletes, they'll get by in gels. The Mike Wardians, they'll have their sports drink and their gels, and that's how they get through, 6 hours of competition.
I was a big fan of the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah.
They were really
That's what I trained with is peanut butter and
jelly. They'll be out
there.
They will be out
looking
there
for those, and
Smuckers will be out there. We'll give them a little plug. Okay.
That's a good sponsor right there.
You've touched on some of the elites, the Max Kings and the Mike Wardians of the world. I'm not sure either of those are going to be there this year.
Well, no, we're not going to have
but I'm
Max
sure
or Mike.
Have a great field.
We have an amazing field, and last year. It was a race director's dream. You had a 2:14 marathon runner trying to hold off a 2:12 marathoner coming down the stretch. And the 2:12 guy was catching him and just kind of ran out of distance. Well, that 2:12 guy, Trent Briney, who was 4th place in the Olympic marathon trials in 2004, he's back. And we know what his goal is. He's looking up there, and that was his first 50-miler. So many people are intimidated by Max King's 5:34:59. Trent Briney is not. And it might be
and that's the course record.
That's the course record. And it might be an expensive day for us because we bumped the prize money up to $1,000 for the winner and a $2,000 bonus for a new course record. And Trent Briney is definitely capable of doing that. And on the women's side, Ellie Greenwood, who was holds the course record at Western States, has won the World 100-kilometer championship and has been 2nd place at Comrades. She smashed the women's course record last year by 17 minutes. She did 6 hours, 12 minutes flat. And once again, the bridesmaid there was Emily Harrison from the University of Virginia, the 2:32:55 marathon runner. But Emily runs 6:17, 12 minutes faster than any woman ever in the previous 49 years had run, but gets 2nd place trophy in the pity clap. Well, Emily is coming back to get the big cheer this year, and once again, that was her first 50-miler last year. So she could take down that 6 hour and 12 minute and 00 seconds course record. It's phenomenal, the field we have. I mean, we got 250 gals that are, seated 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And 250 for the marathon generally converts to about 640, 645 at the JFK. Wow. And we've only had 9 women ever break 650. And we've got 6 women who are probably capable of doing that this year.
It tells you what the state of the ultra running world is right now.
It's a boom, and it really,
incredible.
For a while, Phil, it was a boom for the guys who've been doing marathons for about a decade or so, and were looking for something new, trail races, ultras, but we're also getting these 20-somethings who are just phenomenal. We got Matt Flaherty, who just broke Mike Wardian's record at the U.S. National Championships, crushed Mike's record. Mike set the record 2 years ago at 5:33, which was unheard of on this hilly course out there in Tussey Mountain, Pennsylvania. And Flaherty came along this weekend, beat the record by 5 minutes. Well, I just had email communications from him. I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. He's coming in, 28 years of age, and he's talking course record. And that's just not a guy just shooting off the mouth, because Mike Wardian's done 5:43 at the JFK, and this guy beat Mike Wardian's record by 5 minutes. And the way he was talking to me, emailing today, it was like, that was a training run. So it's going to be exciting.
That's exciting.
It's going to be great. So, people can watch it. If they can't get there physically, they can actually see it on the internet live feed. The Herald Mail newspaper out of Hagerstown.
Phil and I did that a couple years ago. We were running the Philly Marathon, and you guys were on the same weekend as Philly, and we watched it online. And you can find it online. At JFK50miler.org, and there'll be a link.
We'll have a link. They just go to our website. They can watch the race.
It was really exciting. We really were.
We watched it for a long time.
Well, let me tell you, it's Andy Mason, who is a world-class ultramarathon, top 10 finisher in the JFK twice. He is the assistant sports editor at the Herald Mail, and he does the commentary. He will be there, somebody who knows the sport. Yeah. He, writes for the magazines, and it's just incredible. It's like your dream. You're actually watching an ultra, and they're speaking to you like they like you understand. So there'll be a few thousand people worldwide sitting there watching that, and watching it live.
So if you've made it this far in our show here, if you're 20 minutes into our show, you'd be interested in watching this. So I'm sure you'll get some viewers who would be interested who watch this show to watch.
And is he going to stay there on the air until 7 o'clock when I cross the line?
He's phenomenal. He does a magnificent job. I told him, I said, I know you're a writer, but your next career might be standing in front of the camera.
Yeah. A lot of great sponsors. I'm flanked here by guys wearing Hoka 1-1. I assume that's a sponsor.
They are. Yeah. I coach athletes from age 10 to athlete. My oldest athlete I coach right now is 67 years old. And I kind of watch the trend. I don't tell them to wear any type of particular shoes. I'm sitting there watching the trend, and I'm seeing these people showing up, and it's kind of a different looking shoe.
Yeah.
And more of my adult athletes, and then the elites. Mike Wardian I saw wearing them. I saw Andy Mason wearing them. And what is this shoe? And so they tell me about this shoe, and just by coincidence, we opened up our shoe sponsorship this year, and Hoka 1-1 contacts us, and they're a phenomenal shoe. And I'm telling people, people say, what kind of shoes do I wear? And I'm not just saying it because of our sponsor, because of the athletes I coach that are using these shoes across the Appalachian Trail. And they really do protect your toes. They have this amazing cushioning, this amazing stability. So we're just so pumped to have them line up with us, because I really think it's a good fit.
Yeah.
I really do think it's a great shoe for ultras and for an event like ours.
Yeah, it's a different looking shoe. I know you're
Mike, how flexible are you now that you just had a birthday? Can you kick it? No, I'm just kidding. He's got his Hoka shoes on now. He can kick his foot up on the TV.
You can see him. You can see him online. They are a neat looking shoe with a midsole that's a little bigger than
that's
what you might see normal.
I got to tell you, I was skeptical until I saw Mike Wardian wearing them,
no doubt.
and Andy Mason, who's a two-time JFK top 10 finisher. And those guys, they said, and they were buying them. And Andy's going to the store and buying them, and they're convinced that these shoes are amazing.
Well, most of the race really is about, not necessarily about the elites. It's about the stories about, there's about 1,000 finishers or so. Yeah. Incredible stories come out. I mean, my dad's running, I run it. I was telling you about, before the show, I was telling you about how seeing my dad's plaque in his home last night was really something that sparked an emotion. I mean, talk about that. Talk about some stories.
Well, when you have a race that's 50 years, this is our 51st annual, every year, rain or shine, we've had it. You're going to have stories, and it's going to roll into generations. Your dad, you, maybe your children someday, and that's over and over. We've had 3 generations, and the people come back, and the pride, and you see it, and of course, everybody gets old, and they go from being participant to support.
Yeah.
We don't tell people, the race isn't going to forget about you. I was just telling about your dad. Come out, be an ambassador to the event. But I'm telling you, you see the great pride. Whether you finished the event in 1963 or 64, you finished it in 2009, whatever. It's this great fraternity and sorority. It really is.
Yeah.
And you'll see the bumper stickers around the JFK 50, and you'll go, hey, because in the grand scheme of things, there's only been less than 20,000 people to ever start and finish the JFK.
Yeah.
And even though we're the largest ultra, so it's
and that many people across the finish line of the Marine Corps Marathon this year. Just
right. To put things in perspective.
Yeah.
So spaced out over a half a century. These 20,000 people with this unique thing. Kind of like that little wink, wink. Guys. That we have a common bond, even though we might be totally different.
Now, you mentioned earlier that younger guys, in their 20s, were finding your race. How are these guys getting interested in ultra running, do you think?
It's like a rebirth. U.S. running, I have such great pride because, one of the things we do with some of the proceeds of the event is we try to support developmental athletes and ultra, because there is a World 100K Championships that the U.S. sends a team to every year, and we try to encourage those athletes and sponsor those athletes. And you're going to get guys. 2:18 is the Olympic trial standard in a marathon.
Yep.
Okay? And there'll probably be 100 U.S. guys who meet that standard. But there's hundreds of other very good U.S. guys who are looking for other ways of maybe making a U.S. national team. And the JFK is one of those events. If you break 6 hours in the JFK, it puts you into the selection pool for the World 100K team. So that's one of the things that's drawing those guys. Okay? Now, I'm not saying it's not just curiosity, too. You start reading about it. And, it was an event dominated by guys in their later 30s or early 40s. But all of a sudden, we're starting to get these younger guys back in here. Now, I was 24 when I won it for the first time, and that was not unusual back then. But then the event kind of changed. But it's almost like U.S. running is cyclic. It's like the younger guys are coming back into it. Emily Harrison, she's 27 years old. She's the favorite coming in. Okay, not that but the beauty of it is, 40-year-olds and 25-year-olds are pretty much on an even plane. Whereas at the half marathon, the marathon, the 40-year-olds going for the Masters title. But at 50 miles, the leg speed thing kind of gets leveled out a little bit, and 40-year-olds and 25-year-olds are on an even playing field. Jim Hage was the local legend. Jim Hage was 40-40 when he won the race in 2002.
So you mentioned some of the money, the proceeds. Talk about where are the other some of the other proceeds, charities that you guys are involved with.
Well, we serve Boys and Girls Clubs of Washington County. Team Red, White, and Blue is our biggest. They're amazing.
Inspiring group.
The event has been rooted in military history. Kennedy, that was his inspiration. And we really want to help out those guys, those heroes who are putting it on the line so we can do things like organize 50-mile races and run 50-mile races. So Team Red, White, and Blue is a fantastic organization. They're #1 at the top of our list. A number of scholarship funds of the schools that work the aid stations along the course. Well, they can go on the website. There's about 30 of them.
If you go to jfk50mile.org, jfk50mile.org, there's all the information you can ask for about the race, everything about the course, the registration for 2014. Will that be at the beginning of April next year as well?
And on January 1st, we'll announce. We don't foresee modifying the standards. We see them staying the same, and we foresee the window opening on April 1st too. But we will announce that for sure in the first week in January on our website.
And then the A qualification standard for marathon is 3:30 for males, 4 hours for females, and then the rest of the standards for 50K and 50-mile qualifications are on there as well. We got a couple minutes left here, Mike. Is there anything that we're leaving out that we missed this year?
I love the finishers medals.
And the party too.
Break the time, beat the 12-hour time limit, or if you're one of the people who make the qualifications to be in the 5 o'clock start, beat the 14-hour time limit there, you get this amazing Olympic-style medallion placed around your neck as soon as you finish. And the finishers party, it's a blast. We started that last year. Instead of everybody just going their way after the race is over, we get together for a celebration at the host hotel, the Clarion Hotel and Conference Center on Route 40 in Hagerstown. And that's open to the public too. That's from 7 o'clock on the night of the race. What I was going to say to you is there's just a certain spirit with the JFK. The people almost at the finish line, they don't want to leave. Normally you get to a race and they go crazy for the leaders when they come in, but at the JFK, the crescendo builds and builds. The biggest crowds are there during the 11th hour and the 12th hour of the race.
It's awesome.
The biggest spectator crowds and the excitement, and even the race announcers. It's like, it's exciting when the Max King and the Emily Harrison and the Ellie Greenwoods come across, but when those people are coming in there and it's getting close to that, we call the end of the 12th hour.
Do most of the finishers finish in that 10th to 12th hour then?
Yes. The vast majority of our finishers will come across the line between 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the afternoon. Those people finishing from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, and 11 to 12 hours. And like I said, it just builds. It's almost the exact opposite of most races, where it's exciting when the winner comes in and then it diminishes down. JFK is just the opposite. They're going crazy, but then it just gets crazier and crazier.
It's gonna be awesome, man. That's right where I'm gonna be. I'm looking forward to it, man. It's just a month away, man. It's gonna be awesome.
And I'm convinced you should do the 7 a.m. start.
Yes, I think you'll be fine.
We've decided.
All right, these guys have decided for me, man. We got to get out of here, Mike. Thank you for coming down and joining us.
My pleasure.
On the show.
Thanks,
always
guys.
good to see you. I love the shirt, man. And looking forward to the race, Chris. For Chris Farley, I'm Phil Hargis, and we will see you guys at the JFK50mile.org. And next time.